We're going to talk about some of the stuff going on with phase one with ITN. Pi's going to be here in a few minutes. He had a SundaeSwap stand up or whatever. So he had to take care of that first off, but he'll be here in just a little bit. They had a big launch yesterday, so it'll be fun to hear about that, how that went. Looks like everything went well. I went and tried it out yesterday. It was pretty smooth. What's new with you, Nudes?
Yo, man, I did Cardano over coffee this morning. They recently invited me to be like one of the official co-hosts of their show. So on days where I'm not teaching or I'm around, just hop up, help facilitate, co-host, all those things, and keep it moving and grooving in the morning, my friend. So it's been cool. Did that this morning, and there was Lars, the illustrious Lars of Cardano, our one and only, talking about Genius Yield and M Labs. There's a cool space talking, and I think it speaks to this morning. The theme is people really building on Cardano in really, I think, technologically innovative ways, and what we're seeing here with the Adosia incentivized testnet, man, this is freaking awesome to see. So congrats to you, congrats to Kyle, congrats to Frog Dog, everybody that you guys are working with, man. I love to see it. And correct me if I'm wrong, is this the first incentivized testnet, or did someone like Sunday or someone else have one as well?
Yeah, I think there's been a few. I think Sunday may have done one. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, as I say, it doesn't matter who comes first. It's always important just who lasts the longest, baby. And so I'll call it the coolest and most fun testnet of all time right here with Adosia.
Heck yeah, this one's gonna be a pretty long running one too. Um, but it should be a learning experience for everybody, and a good opportunity for people who don't have any experience in this type of world. With 3D printers and design work and stuff like that, to get their hands dirty and learn, and maybe find a new way to make some additional revenue. That's the goal.
Yeah, man, I love it because it's an area that the Web3 space has not, I don't think, really tapped into yet, and you guys are definitely trying to create some new bridges between different, industries and communities of people who are into this sector. So I'm stoked to see it, man. I know maybe you want to give a few minutes, let some people come through or whatever, but I would love to know like the technical specs and what the user experience, like how would I, as an everyday user of Cardano, get into the testnet? What kind of things would I need? What is available for the general public and maybe more specialized people? Would love to know.
Yeah, for sure. We will hit on those things, sir. Yeah, it took us a little while to get started. I was having some technical issues over here. I just figured I'd add this account and run it from this one.
Hell yeah, man. It's great to see so much stuff happening this week. I feel like it's getting wild. I know that it's conference season, so NFT NYC coming up next week. There's going to be a lot of Cardano people there on the ground showing up and showing out for the ecosystem. And, just so many cool announcements and things happening from the space this morning to this incentivized testnet. And then, of course, we got the record store that was announced yesterday. So pretty cool for the music scene, man. I love to see all this growth.
Yeah, for sure. I was really stoked to see that. Andrew did a really good job of keeping it under wraps. I had no idea that was in the works. So yeah, that was really cool. And actually, Six City is going to be Drip Drops is going to be doing starting a space every Wednesday starting next week. Tentative title for that show is Drippy Leaks. But Six City is going to be the first guest. No, excuse me, Refresh is going to be the first guest because we were going to start tomorrow, and we have a conflict with Six City. So next week it's going to be Refresh, and then the week after that, Six City. So we got a pretty good starting lineup ready to go. So it'll be cool to get Six City in here and talk to Jimmy and his team about what they got going on with InMaker and Noom.
Yeah, dude, I'm really stoked for that. I think that this year is we're going to see a lot of interesting developments, and I think the gaming sector there's a lot going on, the music sector, and probably the Internet of Things, and kind of tying real world assets to a tokenized ecosystem. So it's awesome to see, man. I'm actually minting some Six City stuff right now, setting up a friend of mine who's a musician in New York, and I'm bringing him out to NFTLES and to the JPEG event next week. So I just set them up with a wallet, and I'm sitting here just trying to collect all the music NFTs on Cardano, load them up real good, and then hopefully one day maybe we can get them into a Six City rotation right there on Drip Drops.
Nice. Yeah, I'd love to see it, man. Um, I was going to ask you a question too. Oh yeah, so Refresh. What's going on with Refresh?
Dude, all kinds of stuff, man. The Discord's popping and rocking all of the time. There are a number of different things that Crazy Life has in the um, on the kitchen menu, I suppose you could say. Right now, it's been this month focusing on kind of community events for people who are in the Refresh Discord. There's a bingo game that he developed. He like built a website where it's all 54 of the Refresh themes. Like the 10K collection has 54 themes, and he made a random bingo generator, and so he's got prizes and stuff. Like somebody won an unsig on Saturday. It was freaking awesome. Of course, I didn't win, but what can you do? Try again. And then, we got Catalyst support funding for the Alexandria project, which he and I both are working on together. And we're going to be doing a crazy kitchen minting workshop on Saturday. So that's going to be going on in the Refresh Discord as well. So a lot of community stuff right now. And I know that he's got tons of different things in the pipeline for stuff that he's producing. But then, of course, the debut of the F5 token that is now live on Drip Drop. So pretty awesome to see, man. Tons of stuff on the stove, and it feeling spicy on Cardano.
Yeah, for sure. Any new alpha come out of Cardano over coffee or coffee? Yeah, the coffee show this morning. Cardano over coffee. I'll get it out
Yeah,
eventually.
no, it was a big sort of technical discussion with Lars and stuff, and I was kind of in and out. I was there more so in the beginning, um, and then I had to jump on a call, so I was in the space, but I wasn't really present. But if you're interested in M Labs or Genius Yields kind of areas of the ecosystem, the episode, it's recorded. You can check it out in the Cardano over Coffee timeline. And then Hero also too. I think in the next few days he generally posts the interviews up to YouTube, so you can check them out there. And it cuts out all the filler kind of on either side when you're starting the spaces and when things really formally begin. So it's a pretty quick, easy way to get in touch with those kinds of conversations if they pique your interest.
Absolutely, man. And I'm still pretty deep into the curation process of my Project TG. You might know which one I'm talking about. Um, but I'm getting close to a good, I think, a starting point for releasing material. Um, so maybe in the next week or two, I can hook up with you and maybe do it on an Alexandria project or whatever, because uh, it's going to be free. Just putting it on the chain, getting it out there. Um, and I got a few ideas for some collaborative things there too. That might be kind of fun.
Hell yeah, man. I love minting it up and just getting all kinds of things on the chain, sending it out to people for them to check out and, really experience the richness of Cardano and our ecosystem, man. That's like one of my most fun pastimes. So I'm stoked to hear it. Definitely looking forward to it. And real quick, kind of side note, I just want to also say my friend's wallet I'm setting them up with. I got Next Mile Traverse number 86 going to my good buddy in New York.
Right on, dude. I've given away. I never won, obviously, because when me and Adam up and we did the first testament, I'm in the first one. But I had like, I don't know, 5 or 10 of them. I can't remember how many I had, but I've given them all away. I'm gonna have to go back on JPEG store to buy so I can have one.
I had this one. I had this one listed for like a stupid amount of money, I think, because I saw it on there for like cheap, and it was the only one, and I was like, I'm fucking snagging this. So I snagged it, and I had it up for a while, and I was like, man, forget this. I'm giving this to my friend. So I'm doing that, and then, dude, when that thing minted, I think I minted about 10% of the total supply, because it's a rare album on Cardano, the first full-length feature album with an embedded player, and there's only maybe 119 copies, and I think I minted like 11 of them or something like that. Gave them all away. So I love that one, man. It's a fucking classic, that's for sure.
Yeah, me too, man. Minted a bunch, gave them all away. I was gonna keep number one, and actually I think I gave it to Jimmy from Six City. You know, he was helping me out with this latest music thing I was working on, so I was like, let me hook up. So I gave it to him. But
Well deserved. A good home for sure.
yeah, for sure. And he dropped a bunch of cool stuff in my wallet too. So I sent him a bunch of stuff. But I'm hoping next, I don't know, 4 months, 5 months, I have this new one done. I just hadn't really had a lot of time lately to play with it. But I listened to some of and you may have listened to some of the rough tracks that I sent you in that folder. But I'll listen to stuff, you know, if I'm driving around, whatever, trying to work out vocal melodies and, you know, story ideas and stuff like that. So I just keep a notepad stuck to the dash, and I'll record, you know, listen to it on the stereo and record on the phone, trying to get, you know, to save melody ideas, because I'll come up with melody ideas and I'll forget them. But anyway.
Hell yeah, dude. That's the way, man. That's the way. So with this,
Dude, I have that the worst. Like I wake up from dreams all the time with melodies in my head, and then I try to remember them the next morning, and they're just gone.
Yeah, I've found that if, you know, a lot of times if you don't capture those things right away, they're pretty much gone. And the same thing like with writing music in general. I know I'm getting off topic here, but writing music in general, if you have the equipment set up to record, like 99 times out of 100, that first performance, you know, once the song is written, you know, that first performance is always going to be the best one. I think one of the best examples of that was probably Adele. One of the songs that ended up being like multi-platinum single, which is unusual for singles to get that kind of play, you know, singularly outside of an album context. But anyway, she had recorded her first version, which was basically a demo. And the producers at her record label were like, okay, let's dump $2 million into the song and do a, you know, produced, polished version. And the original version was the one that made the cut, you know, because she was in that headspace when she wrote it and recorded it, you know, at that time. And she came back 2 or 3 months later and her life had changed. So that passion that you feel for it in that moment, you know, it's not going to be there for forever.
Yeah, that's crazy.
all right, we got Pi joining the space, man. Guest of honor for a very special day right here with the Adosia team, man. Big congrats again to everybody. Really, really happy to see this level of innovation going on in Cardano. Shout out to the entire team and a big welcome to Pi, man. What's going on? How are you today, brother?
Woo-hoo!
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for having me on the space.
Yeah, man. Good to see you, Pi. So, I guess drop it on us, brother. How did everything go yesterday?
It went fantastically. So for those who don't know, SundaeSwap has been working for quite a while on a rewrite of our UI. We kind of accrued a bunch of technical debt getting to launch, and that proved to be really difficult to iterate on. You know, I'm sure at Adosia, you're feeling that pain now. You guys have a bunch of technical debt, and you're like, we can't wait to start paying this down because the get to launch grind is very real. But we launched on testnet yesterday after really pushing hard, and the feedback. So that being said, you know, go check it out. Everybody kind of in the audience. This looks like a kind of smaller space, but go check it out if you haven't. I'm really proud of what my team has accomplished, but I also don't want to hijack this space about it too much. So one thing, I've been kind of tangentially aware of Adosia for a while. Kyle pitched it to me, I think, sometime last year, and I thought it was a really cool idea. But I haven't been following the project too closely. So one thing, as with me as a guest here is why don't you give me the full pitch from the ground up? Assuming I know nothing, so that those listening learn through my eyes and the questions that I have about it.
Yeah, for sure. So essentially it's a decentralized manufacturing network. The marketplace is basically the platform where all those things kind of take place. But if I'll walk through kind of the flow. So as a designer, designer of physical products, you design something, some 3D, say it's a lampshade or whatever that, a gear in some part or whatever, one of the things I put up on the platform was a IKEA shelf pin, because they're pretty easy to lose when you're building things from IKEA. But anyway, a designer can upload a design to the platform, and they can, if it's something they design themselves, they can assign essentially a royalty to it. So anytime someone comes to the platform afterwards and wants that item, they would basically buy the rights to print that item, and it would go to the printing pool, and then printers on the printer network would be able to make bids on the manufacture of that item. And then the user would have the ability to choose, based on a number of factors. It could be, time to have it shipped, the cost, obviously, in ADA. And so a number of factors will play into the user's decision on who they choose to have it manufactured for them. But the designer, once that whole transaction process is concluded, the designer would get a royalty on that. And so there's a couple different ways for someone to monetize it. Obviously, the designers who are designing things to upload, and they can make money on their designs being printed. And then there's the 3D printer network. Printers can earn revenue. And that's kind of the high level.
That sounds really cool. It's kind of like a Shapeways for Web3.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. A couple of questions about how it works. Have you guys thought about, or how do you moderate things like somebody uploading kind of copied designs, or do you have like a reputation system around printers to see or to kind of prevent? How do you prevent like a printer from just kind of creating a bunch of accounts and bidding for it, and then kind of just taking the ADA and running?
Yeah, reputation system, exactly that. Not dissimilar from something like eBay or Uber even. So the network itself, as we stand now, is very spread out. I mean, we have printers on every continent, I believe. And that's steadily growing. Obviously, most of them are in the U.S. at the current time. But yeah, I mean, the best way, I think, in a decentralized way, the best way we've come up with so far is basically guild networks, for kind of managing the customer service side of things, because there's always going to need to be a human element there.
Yeah.
But yeah, reputation system is probably the best way, I think, for us to move forward with that.
And is that implemented into the ITN, or is this kind of just the proof of concept where we're seeing how it all works?
Yeah, let me pull up. Sorry, I got my main account on the desktop. I had to switch over to mobile because I was having issues with BlueStacks per norm.
No worries.
Yeah, it's the governance side of it's a complex solution, because you're ultimately going to have cases where both sides of the party aren't happy, so you need to manage that in the right way. And Quinn's been working on a lot of different components. I think there's like 15 smart contracts involved in the the main net target that we're shooting for, and part of that is reputation management system. But I think there's gonna need to be collateral, right? There's gonna have to be some sort of collateral from parties, and that the collateral, we're still kind of investigating and exploring the tokenomics there, and I'm not sure exactly what inflection point, whether we can do that off chain or not, so we can adjust that. But we're kind of just getting into that part now. We just launched MVP, and now we're kind of diving into those tokenomics for that. But I think there's a collateral component for the printer operators for sure, and user reputation system as well, right? And then obviously what Chris is saying in regards to guilds. But I'm thinking, the transaction funds, the printer operator won't get his funds until the user's happy, completely happy, right? Like in eBay, ultimately the buyer, with PayPal, the buyer's always right. If you sell stuff on eBay, you
Right.
eat it sometimes. And I think that's something that's kind of going to be a mantra or kind of embedded into the system. But printer operators are probably going to avoid first time buyers without, maybe there's a collateral component that first time buyers have to put up that's greater and things like that. So all this stuff is stuff we're still working out.
Yeah, really cool though. So tell me about the incentivized testnet. How does that work? What does it support? Things like that.
Yeah. So the incentivized testnet is essentially a similar goal to how SundaeSwap wanted to do with their ISPO, and it's essentially token distribution, right? We're essentially trying to get more and more tokens out there is one goal, but the secondary goal is to really get community feedback and interaction and engagement with the features, so we can then go back and bake that in to a final target product for design. Because with the number of smart contracts involved, pushing that amount of code towards an audit doesn't make sense until it's kind of like the functionality is locked down.
For sure. So is that launching today or?
Yes. So the incentivized testnet is launching today. You guys can go and start playing around with the MVP. There's a test plan. Chris, if you can paste a link to that, where people can post a link up top where people can kind of see the Medium article and walk through that. High level what the incentivized testnet is and what the actual current test phase is. Essentially, we'll be giving out 250 million Adosia tokens over the course of 7 phases. The first 6 phases were designed specifically to test functionality to the MVP, as well as provide feedback and also assist with bug bounties. The last phase is going to be incentivizing populating the mainnet production site with open source designs. And so that's kind of kicking off now. We're all excited.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And the architecture is built so anybody can come and build your own front end on this. I know probably you had mentioned a question about how we're going to handle IP. Well, right now, until we kind of get to the point where, we are decentralized, because decentralization is a journey, right? We have to abide by the laws of the land where we live. And, in certain cases, I don't think we'd be able to facilitate the transfer of certain, items in certain jurisdictions. And in those cases, we would, more than likely have to take action and just simply not show them on the Adosia front end. But that doesn't stop anybody else from in the world and going and building their own front end on top of this essential architecture and deploying their own solution that can leverage the smart contract and actually monetize that. So,
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so phase one there's going to be 7 phases in total. Phase 1 is essentially, getting people hands-on with various wallets. We want people to try to run the system through its paces with Nami, Eternal, Giro, Typhon, you name it. And, obviously having to learn IPFS there's going to be a learning curve there, especially for designers in particular. Because, again, you want everything to be as decentralized as possible. So IPFS is a necessary beast. And teaching people how to use IPFS node directly if they choose to, third-party services like Pinata, Arweave, stuff like that. And, getting their designs up on the site, listed properly, that kind of thing.
Well, one of the goals too is we want to create, and I know we need this, and this is a huge need. I've been saying this for a while. Is we need a modularized kind of like onboarding tool, because we're starting to attract people from outside the crypto space, and it can be very intimidating with the on ramps that we have in place today. The UX just isn't where it needs to be. And so one of the things that we want to come out of this is, okay, small simple guide. Okay, how to get testnet tokens and get ready to participate in something on testnet, right? That's something all the projects can use, right? And the next step is how to set up your wallet. That's really easy. There's no real like one easy thing that we can give a newbie that's just digestible from a consuming standpoint. Whether there's not a video segment, there's not a documentation segment. We need that's really concise, while this has been done hundreds of times. There's not really, you know what I'm saying? Where do you go if your dad said, "Hey, I wanted to get into crypto," and he's just unfamiliar? How can you make that as easy as possible without you taking 6 hours out of your day?
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I forget which project it is, but I saw recently there's a project on Cardano that has like a sign up with Google option where they generate and manage a set of private keys for you, bridge that, like, oh, I'm kind of just dabbling my feet, and then kind of support, okay, how do I, hit the eject button and get these assets out of the kind of managed wallet. I don't, I don't have the cojones to build and manage something like that. That terrifies me, but I think it's a really great idea for that smoothing over that adoption and getting that kind of that bridged experience. Have you guys thought about something like that?
No, I'm sorry. Could you repeat the question? A bridge experience for?
Yeah, have you guys thought about like adopting a model where somebody can like sign up for kind of a classic Web 2 style account if they're unfamiliar with crypto, right? Like they're just a 3D printer that they want to get involved. They click sign up with Google, and then you generate the wallet on the back end with a cap on like, hey, if you really want to get into this, here's the next step, to manage and custody your own
Well,
assets.
yeah, but see, like custody is a big deal right now. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we can, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if there's a decentralized, easy way to do that, but we are actively, or at least I know on we're looking at as kind of like and this is not an Adosia specific. This is something for a new initiative. We are pursuing money transmitter licenses and things like that would enable that. And if we can, you see what I'm saying? If we can enable that, then that
Yeah.
does make sense. But that component is something that I think makes sense for every user. Any application that's trying to draw outside users into the space. So I haven't necessarily thought about that specific to Adosia. But I think it's absolutely necessary to bridge that gap. If somebody can pay in fiat, that's great. I mean, but creating the wallet on the back end, I mean, just it creates these whole new issues as you're aware of that we have to navigate as project founders. And so there's a path there. If I had millions and millions of funding, absolutely, I think that would be the way to go to penetrate the market the fastest.
For sure.
Now we do have access to the infrastructure to do that. Obviously, I mean, that is essentially what token was when it started. Was a centralized. I mean, we spun up basically a master enterprise address and had user addresses, baked off of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess it would come down more to what we can legally carry.
Yeah.
Macaroni, what's up, brother?
Yeah. Is this an okay time to ask questions? I can wait till later on.
Yeah. I mean, we can talk about Adosia. I want to talk a lot about what Sundae's doing too, though. So we should get gears into that. But yeah, absolutely. This is question time.
Okay, so on the Adosia preview test net, I went in there and I bought the Antlers centerpiece for 300, right? So after that, I guess two questions: does it become an NFT as well? And also, I see in there it says I bought it for 300 test data, and I see it says 0 offers received for printing it. So is the 300 not for that as well, or can I go, or is there another section where I can go find an offer out there without having to wait for somebody to come look at it and say, hey, here's an offer? How does that work?
Okay, so are you interacting with the site as a user or
just with my wallet connected?
Okay, so just a user so the way it should work is you as a user would essentially go into a negotiation with a printer operator, right? Or you would essentially put an order out there. So I don't think you're buying anything in the stage, if I'm hearing what you're saying correctly. I think you're basically putting your 300 ADA into the smart contract and saying, are there any takers? I mean, Chris, you can probably walk through the functionality of this, but what's going to happen is you're you're basically going to say, I want this manufactured, right? That's how you're going to engage with the user. And then a printer operator is going to act like an Uber driver, right? He's either going to see it and be like, nah, or he's going to try and pick it up. And there's going to be some sort of back and forth, and you guys come to an agreement, right? Whether or not that job's addressed. And at that point, the printer operator takes it, fulfills it, reports back to the system that it's completed. There's a QA process that's not going to be involved in MVP. But then after that, then all the funds are released once everybody's happy.
Okay, cool.
We're
So-
going to integrate shipping and all that stuff in there in as well. So I'm not sure what part.
From my understanding, what the 300 ADA that you paid at this point was actually the amount that the designer is asking for to get that printed as like their cut as the designer for designing that piece. So now it's going to the bidding section where you're going to have different 3D printer operators come in and say, hey, I can print this for this amount and I can do it in 2 weeks kind of thing, right?
Right.
Oh, wow.
So right now
Okay,
you're
cool.
just kind of waiting for printer operators to come in, and then once that happens, then you'll see, oh, I've got a couple bids, and then you can choose which one you want. So it'll be it'll be that 300 initially, plus whatever the 3D printer operators bid and say that they can do, print it for.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the price is really up to the designer. So if you look on the marketplace now, you'll see one of those shelf support pins, and the price is free. And so I uploaded that. That's actually an open source design, so I didn't put a price on it. But if I were a designer and say it was just some small, some part that's going to be printed a lot of times, you're not going to want to put a big price on it because you would definitely deter people from buying it. Because then you still have the printing cost if you want to have it.
Yeah, that's why I was confused. The 300 ADA royalty is pretty steep. So I wouldn't do that, Caleb. So that maybe we need to take that back to the UX and put a warning.
Yeah, that was actually my design that I put up there too, and I didn't fully understand the system when I put it on there. So one of those things we're learning as we go. That's the whole point,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, okay, gotcha.
Look, Caleb, just print this damn antler centerpiece for it and send it to me already, okay? I'm kidding.
Hey, I've actually got 4 of them in my basement that I got some customers that I'm printing those for right now. So I'll just steal some of theirs. I'll send them to you. We'll be good.
Okay.
But yeah, let's hop back over to Sunday. New had a chance to go over there and play with it. I played with it yesterday. I was really impressed.
You got
I think it's awesome too. Very clean, very modern. I like it a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, the feedback has been very, very positive. We worked on this honestly a bit too long, right? We should have released this and tried to focus on doing it more iteratively. But I'm really, really happy with the end result, even if I'm, kicking myself personally over the path it took to get us here. And what I'm most excited about, and I said this on Twitter yesterday, what I'm most excited about is the opportunity it represents for us to iterate faster. Because even just, today and yesterday, we'll be pushing out a few fixes from kind of issues that people reported, and the dev team is just, each one is an example or what's the word, a justification for kind of the effort that we put in how quickly we've been able to add new features and fix bugs. So our plan right now is to fix the feedback that we're getting. It's been relatively light, so we weren't sure whether we were going to get like a ton of bugs reported or not, and so we didn't want to commit to a mainnet release timeline. The feedback has been really light so far, so that is kind of leaning more on the shorter iteration cycle to get to mainnet launch. But we basically just have to build out. We've got most of Zaps built out, and so we want to get some good testing on that. So we'll probably launch that later this week for people to test. And then the Next thing that we want to do before mainnet launch is the kind of get up to feature parity with yield farming, because we've still got end maker yield farming going on, and we want to support that. We do have some ideas about like a V2 of yield farming that we're going to work on after our mainnet launch, and we're going to kind of be proposing to the community as a governance vote. So keep an eye out on that. But yeah, overall, I'm glad you got to try out the new UI, and I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Now, Pi, you've been building here for a long time, and there's some discussion going on in the community about some of this. If someone who's coming to Cardano new to build, what advice would you give? What advice would you give somebody?
So usually the advice that I give to people is to take your time to understand the Cardano specific mechanics. So Cardano, unlike most other chains, kind of has a wild departure in design. A lot of chains that people build on are, okay, it's Ethereum, but, and with this small modification. And Cardano is dramatically different in a number of ways, right? The EU TXO model, but a bunch of other ways as well. And taking the time to like understand, oh, okay, this is how transactions are serialized. And here's how, if I come across a transaction in the wild, here's how I understand what it does and what the different fields on that transaction are and how an address is structured and how staking works. If you take the time to kind of soak in these details, and you'll benefit a lot from that. And kind of the easiest way, and I said this at the Cardano Summit last year when I was on that panel discussion, but the easiest way to do that, in my opinion, is to pull up the specification for how the transaction is formatted and just write like a simple deserializer that can take in the raw bytes of a transaction and then give you a data structure with all of the fields filled out. And that will, as you probe and you explore what those fields are, you'll learn a whole ton about how Cardano works and why addresses are split into two and how staking addresses work and all that kind of stuff. And if you're just starting out building on Cardano, your design and your understanding of the product that you're building will be a lot more comprehensive for it.
That's great advice, brother. Skip top governance. How are you feeling about the state of governance and where we're kind of headed at the moment?
I'm highly optimistic. I think a lot of people have justifiable concerns. A lot of people have, let's just say, less justifiable concerns. They've kind of, I think, a few people have worked themselves into a panic. And but overall, I like that we're getting multiple proposals, and I like the direction that 1694 is headed in. Outside of like the Voltaire governance, I'm also really excited about the landscape of kind of user space governance, so to speak. Things like, I'm really proud of the governance platform that we've built that offers, zero cost voting and things like that. I'm really excited about some of our plans for extending and improving that going forward. Really cool to see, Drip Drops building out their own governance solution. Really cool to see Voltaire in this space. I keep seeing, I've been meaning to dig into more details, but been seeing them tweet about a new smart contract that they're working to integrate into their voting system. So that's really cool. Liquid just launched Agora. So it's really cool to see kind of some of these more heavyweight on-chain voting solutions. So I think it's just, a whole slew of diverse options that are really cool and kind of can fit whatever your particular niche is. And it's really, really exciting. Governance is a thing that I feel very strongly about, and maybe, the reason I got into Cardano. So it's really cool to see that starting to like mature and come to fruition on a number of different fronts.
Absolutely. And I'm kind of with you on the governance space, within the community outside of Voltaire itself. Because within Adosia, I mean, with it, trying to build this DAO and proper governance and how complex that is, I don't think voting mechanism is probably not something we're going to be gung ho to build out ourselves right away. So there's probably something we'll leverage from Sunday or Drip Drops or something like that.
Yeah, would love to partner with you there.
Yeah, that'd be great. We still got during the ITN phase. I mean, that's something we're really focused on. Obviously, is trying to go find funky edge cases in the platform kinks. But in parallel, working on governance pretty hard, and we got Peter Wilk for him, and brilliant guy, and he's kind of got us leashed up and guiding the way. So we're making good progress there. Yeah.
I got to say this. I've been clicking around on the Adosia.Market while we're sitting here talking, and it's it's renewed my itch to buy my own 3D printer and maybe become a printer for the platform.
Do it, man.
Oh,
Do
yeah.
it. We'd love to have you involved. That'd be great.
Hey,
Yeah, Kaylee, you one that was saying you do a lot of printing, right?
Yeah. I'm one of the operators that's been helping Adosia test out a bunch of stuff over the past year, and it's fun. We got a pretty cool group of guys in the Discord that we got some guys that are making their own filament and they have their own business doing that, and other guys have their own print shops.
Yeah, maybe I'll reach out to you for some advice on what type of printer to get. It's going to be kind of hard in a New York apartment to find the space to do it, but maybe I can make it work.
Yeah, there's some small ones out there that only take up like a square foot, so
Yeah.
you can get pretty compact with it.
Yeah, if you get a chance, Pod, join the Discord. Go over there and hang out with the guys over there.
Yeah. Will you send me a
Yeah.
link? Like DM me?
I'll throw an invite up in the top here of the space.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, anyone listening too, if you want to join the Discord, there should be let's see, it's the first or second pin up there has a Discord link in it. But yeah, we'll get one to you, Pi. We're gonna basically use Discord as kind of ground zero for communications with everybody as people have reports and whatnot.
Now for this ITN, when somebody are you expecting like, oh, all the data is dummy data? When somebody goes through and requests a print, you're not expecting the printers to actually print and ship it to people, right?
No, not at all. So this is we wanted to actually keep the printer operators entertained, with an economic opportunity during this, but it makes there's no economic opportunity on testnet, and to enable that, it's just you're spending a lot of development resources for something that's very important, but there's other ways to achieve it with less resources, right?
Yeah.
And so
yeah, and at that point you might as well just be on mainnet, right?
Well, exactly. And so we want to understand all the endpoints really well, and actually get the code down and right, but also create an economic incentive for the printer operators. And so the path for that is, the first thing we did is we actually are in the process of doing kind of a longer term NFT sale on the Adosia rockets. And so we've got rockets for sale that are 3D printable. And in that process, you can go, and if you own a rocket, there's a landing page you can go to where you can actually choose that rocket and pay a price to have that manufactured by an operator or network. So we're divvying those up as those come in. So you can actually manufacture a rocket now, and there's an economic opportunity there. But that same infrastructure that Adam built, basically, it's checking a connected wallet, seeing the NFT policy in there, and then saying, okay, choose which one you want to have manufactured. We can essentially do something very similar with like 3D lithophanes and a 2D NFT. And so there's software technology, and we're kind of maybe looking at the piece, but we're distracted with other projects right now. But if we can tie in, and essentially you can generate a 3D printable file from a 2D image, and the printable file looks, it's basically, it's called a lithophane. You put a backlight behind it, it looks really cool. So you can take any NFT, an unsig, like a token logo, all kinds of cool different things from a 2D image, and create a 3D physical piece of art from it. And so what we're thinking is, just replicate the architecture we've already built and let anybody select an NFT in their wallet and have that manufactured. So that's an opportunity that I'd hope to enable in the next quarter or so as we move forward while we're building out the primary marketplace. And then obviously when the marketplace comes, the economic opportunity is there. But to do that, we've got to have tens of thousands of designs populated into the marketplace coming out the gate. And that's part, the whole point of phase 7, incentivizing and procuring to make sure it's quality, and there aren't any open source license infringements, but to incentivizing people to populate the platform with open source designs as well as proprietary designs and things like that.
Very cool. And the way that you introduced it to me is also I think was worded very particularly, because like we've been focusing on 3D prints and stuff, but you really kind of envision this for any physical goods. So like if somebody did custom embroidery or things like that, you would imagine selling that through this as well,
there's
right?
a path for that, and so that's something we want to look at before we put in. We're kind of looking at edge cases, but yeah, I mean, 3D printer, it's this like simple CNC architecture. I mean, you could do the same thing with a pick and place machine. You could do the same thing with engraving machines, right, embroidery machines, or any type of. And then it gets real complicated. Like, okay, can we chain services together, right? Like, okay, I want a product and it requires this guy to make this, and then he's got to ship it to this guy, and then then off to this manufacturer, and then it comes to me. So obviously that's far more advanced than what we're flowing out right now. But I think ultimately, that's a path, and if anything, we can inspire people to kind of leverage, because we are going to open source everything we have, and as we come and put it into production.
Yeah. Do you have any ability for the designer who's uploading the designs to put restrictions on who can like create? So what I'm thinking of is like, suppose somebody has a 3D printer and they do a bunch of designs, but they also want to make sure that that revenue comes to them, and so they can either offer like, oh, we're going to upload this design, but the only people in the marketplace who are allowed to mint it are ourselves or our friends, or we'll give 2 different prices depending on whether you go with us or go with somebody else. Or because the reason I ask is I'm thinking like, this, we've talked a lot about the Shapeways angle, but are you also thinking about the Etsy angle of like a place for people who aren't necessarily trying to like open source their designs and make that available to anybody to make, but want to sell kind of physical handmade crafts or things like that?
Yeah. I mean, I think it makes sense. This model is definitely not addressed in the MVP, but it does make sense because because obviously if you're using IPFS or Arweave and you're putting the designs out there, anybody who's relatively sophisticated with a 3D printer has access to manufacture that design, right? So that's obvious, and if we want to get around that, there's one way I want to take it, which we'll talk about next, but to address kind of like the Etsy angle, there's this concept of, let's say, the cornucopias guys wanted to do an NFT drop of their bubble card design, their 3D design. They may not want that design out there. So we actually have to, this is where it comes in, the concept of guild networks, where only certain guilds can manufacture the design and things like that. So we're kind of keeping that in mind in a way where a designer would be a peripheral component. We haven't gone into the depths of what a designer can and can't do beyond set a royalty to it, but we can set it up to where it has to be manufactured within a guild process. So it's a good feedback, and we can make sure that gets into MVP, because even if we were going to service like as Adosia, we're building an expertise as a community of printer operators that can really provide services. Now we got a crazy request in from Ukraine to actually develop 10,000. This what it essentially looked like. What was it, Chris? So it was like a mortar prop or fin, right?
That was like the fin for a handheld
Yeah, for
mortar
you.
Yeah.
that they drop with drones or
Right, and
something.
we're like, no, but the idea is that there's expertise and demand there potentially, and so if we were to take on a service like that, we would need to control the quality, and if anybody else were to use a decentralized service, they would need to be able to control or like deploy a decentralized manufacturing service. Like as a designer, they would need to be able to control the quality. So the concept of guilds is designed for that. So us as a dojo, we could basically say, okay, in order to be part of the Adosia Guild and actually be supported by that, you guys are going, and we would use a different name because like a dojo, like there's a public everybody can join level, right? But if you
Yeah.
need to maintain and kind of control quality, that's the concept of that. So yes, I think we're going to address it, and obviously I'd be happy to continue to talk to you as we flesh it out to make sure it's as robust as possible. And then
Yeah, no, and I totally get the like MVP angle, and I'm just kind of exploring the idea because I haven't dove too deep into it since we talked about it last
right.
year. Um, uh, as you were talking, it kind of sparked another idea in me, which is, have you put much thought, again, MVP or otherwise, into the notion of like um, uh, a user request that for a design that may not exist yet? So they put out a bounty for, like you said, oh, I need somebody to design me this mortar fin. And then designers can kind of find those requests, or like, I have this piece of furniture and I don't, I can't come, I don't know the 3D modeling, but here's some measurements. Can you design the pin for it? And then a designer can kind of look at those bounties and try to fulfill them.
Yeah. We haven't thought into as far as in depth of monetizing it and kind of creating an economic flow around it beyond what can we do to create a community to help facilitate that. So those ideas are coming
For sure.
around, but these are all fantastic things that tactics and mechanisms we can put in to really help push the community forward. I mean, ultimately, where I would love to see this going is it get to a point where we can have a budget, to actually really build cool stuff, because we got a couple
Yeah.
SpaceX engineers on the team, and um, I mean these guys are designing part rocket engines, and so they actually designed the rockets for our NFT drop, and it was really cool. Seeing them get engaged because they're learning, how blockchain can make sense. I mean, Gio was trying to make NFT chicken wings or something back then. Like he was artificially manufacturing chicken wings, like vegan chicken wings or meatless. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But what I really would like to do is figure out a way, and we'd have to build a printer, but like a printer that grandma could use, and it'd be preloaded with you know thousands of open source designs, but also enable and back into this model where designers can create designs and people can pay to manufacture them. I mean, it's a huge feat in technology to build something, because 3D printers they take a lot of manual management, and to actually do that, it's a lot of
Yeah.
work, and I don't even know if it's feasible. But if you could do that, now you've got something that can really decentralize manufacturing. You're cutting out a lot of the e-commerce shipping business, right? And so
Yeah.
it's a long-term kind of
Tea,
vision.
Earl Grey, hot.
Say what?
Tea, Earl Grey, hot.
Yeah.
Where does the name Adosia come
I
from?
had a wolf, and his name was Adosia.
Hmm.
And then he got a hold of my husky, and I had his 5 kids. Now I only got one of them left. So, yeah.
But yeah, IoT came up in the conversation earlier, and that's actually a pretty significant background for Adosia there. And that's one thing I'm hoping we can kind of pivot back to at some point once this part of the wing is kind of strengthened and on its own. Get back in some of the IoT stuff.
Yeah, no, we did. We had to park, park that side of it. Um, I guess if anybody hops back in, we'll just let them know we're shutting it down. Yeah, go ahead, man.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Good morning. I did have a question before I got rugged. I was about to ask to speak. Now, once you get the entire network set up, do you have any like companies that you're going to use for shipping, like DHL exclusively, or is it just whatever's available?
Well, so shipping is a huge gnarly problem because it's different in every geo, right? And we have to figure out a way that makes sense, right, for printer operators to be able to pick up jobs that make sense, right? Like, you want to be able to create an opportunity for everybody, but also optimize that opportunity at the lowest cost for a customer as well, right? So ultimately the shipper is going to be print or shipping the order. And so, you know, maybe you could just drop it off yourself. I mean, I don't know if you could even do that because we're gonna have a tracking number system, but if it's in your area and it's that granular of a location, then potentially we could eliminate shipping. And then, you know what I'm saying, now printer operators got a new vertical to compete on. So I don't think that an exclusive partnership makes any sense. I think that, providing an API where or us kind of creating the technology to enable the printer operators to use what they use, you know what I'm saying? Like maybe they, just like if you were an eBay store owner, you get to decide which shipping entities you want to support, right? And that becomes part of your bid process. So it's more of a printer operator choice. And, no single entity is going to be able to serve everywhere in the world. This is, we're really truly trying to deploy a global solution. But what we don't have a solution for, and this is, now that I'm thinking about it, is the case where even where shipping companies can serve is like, let's say, Caleb, Caleb gets an order in for, print, 10 rockets or 20 rockets, and it's a pretty heavy order, and it would add an extra, $50 on a shipping charge, right? But the order's right down the dang street. It's like, shit, I'm just gonna drive it over. So how would we even handle that, or would we want to support that? Even though it's the most efficient way to do it. But if we can solve that problem now we can serve third world where you don't have DHL and things like that. So short answer to your question is no, we're not going to select a single entity and partner. I think we should support what makes sense based on price.
Okay, excellent. Now, with the payment for, said services from Adosia, will it only be in Adosia, or are you going to accept, like, JPEG Store does like Winter, where you can use your credit card, but then Six City you can pay in Hosky, blah blah blah, such and such.
Yeah, no, initially it's an ADA based system. We're still working out the tokenomics on Adosia. So we think, there's either going to be kind of a discount component, but there's other kind of syncs within the site that the actual token is going to use. So it's definitely ADA based in out the gate, but to enable front end paywalls, we could look at and investigate services, that can kind of enable that front end piece, but usually they come at a pretty costly surcharge to do that. And as far as the legal landscape of doing that as a U.S. company, we've got to be pretty careful about how we enable on ramps and what we do with those funds, because if we're taking those funds, like to actually do that, we would have to have some sort of centralized component, and then we would have to we would take control of those funds ourselves, and then we would actually manually have to somehow distribute that into all parties, and that it creates a legal circumstance when we do that, rather than just kind of having a decentralized marketplace where all the actors are interacting with a smart contract on their own, right? And so the answer is no, not out the gate. I think it makes sense from a market penetration perspective to enable that, but there are hurdles to be able to do that. I think in a cost effective way that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. If this were a true two-party system where, say, a seller wanted to get Sunday or WMT and then the buyer was okay with that, it would be a lot easier. But since a lot of cases it's going to be a third-party system where, and that kind of thing, it adds another layer of complexity too.
Well, this is interesting, Chris, because if you think about it, we may be able to, if the buyer, we may be able to do something where we create a fiat gateway where, and I'd have to run this obviously by legal, where a buyer purchases credits, and then we create something in the smart contract, like maybe it's print credits or something like that, right? And in the smart contract, we have to figure it out, but I think there's a way we could do it where right after the payment, everything else is decentralized, so we're not moving funds around. So thanks for the question, man. That's an awesome question. You got me thinking.
Yeah, it is.
One thing that came up in my mind as you were kind of walking through that is what kind of measures do you guys have in place or have thought about in terms of like protecting the user's address, for example? And yeah.
It's a great question. And so this is part of what we're working through on the shipping side. There's no real good answer there because at some point you have to expose that address to the printer operator who is fulfilling the order, right? And so right now, I mean, obviously we took great precaution with that and how we even managed our own printer operator distributions now. This is more of a question I think that I hope that Quinn can answer because, or at least address how we're thinking about it. But it is of concern and of issue, and I think it comes back into reputation concerns like buyers and who they work with printer operators. Like you're not going to want to work with a printer operator of a 1-star or 0. You know what I'm saying? You have to figure something out to get that initial reputation. But that is the question, and back to the point of enabling that endpoint. Let's say there's a delivery endpoint where, like when I talked about the point where, Caleb wants to deliver his order, to get a competitive advantage. But what about in a third world where that's the norm and your delivery's coming on foot? Do you see what I'm saying? You order something, and what's going to stop the person who's receiving it from being a bad actor? So there's that whole concept of safety is very, very important and very, very concerning. I think it's going to come down to warnings and making sure that the user base is very well informed. But at the end of the day, there is a vector there, and I think that we should be exploring it very deeply because ultimately, when you're building technology like this, if it is successful, on some degree, there's going to be some magnitude somebody who gets hurt.
Yeah. But like in terms of like how is the shipping information, even in the ITN, transmitted to the shipper?
Well, it's not addressed in the ITN, I don't believe.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, ITN has. I don't think we're putting in. Is there an area to put in shipping, Caleb? Have you guys? Because I haven't even walked through the process entirely.
No, not specific.
Okay.
And where that data is transmitted is essentially once a user has agreed, they basically get a general location, the printer operator, and so they can make a bid on it based on that. And then that data is shared back to the printer operator once that transaction is confirmed and is shared between the two parties. But yeah.
And would that be like shared through your backend, or is it like encrypted in the transaction metadata, or what?
No, I don't think we're putting that data on chain. The shipping data itself, I've got to look in and see where it's at. But the shipping enhancement and shipping integration is an enhancement we're adding to the MVP. We're actually being funded through Catalyst to add that now, so it hasn't been implemented in that form. Mm-hmm. But from the engineering discussions I've heard is we're not putting shipping information on chain. And obviously, if it was, it would be in some encrypted format. If Quinn's around, you want to ping Quinn, see if he can jump in. Chris?
Yeah, I'll hit him up.
See if he's around. But he can kind of answer what he's thinking about laying out for these.
And I'm just curious,
No, it's very important because we have to dig into that because that's a serious issue. Obviously, you don't want someone to traverse and then all of a sudden they've got everybody's address, whoever ordered something, and now they know they got crypto. So, it's like Ledger losing their customer list. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think like how can you facilitate a transaction where people have to meet face to face and do it safely. I mean, you've got.
Yeah, and see what because ideally we have more architecture in places like in
Well,
regions of Africa where WMP is, because the internet architecture would be there that we would need to leverage to make this platform work there anyway.
well, you don't necessarily need the internet, because if, in this case, if you think about it, like you've got an individual who is moving across the land with no communication whatsoever, okay? And in normal cases, he would have everything with him to exchange the value. He would have the product, and the other party would either have the money at the time, right? And obviously, if they were both goodwilled, the exchange would happen. But if they weren't goodwilled, something bad could happen, because one could take something from the other. So in the case, we can eliminate one side of it by locking the funds up into the smart contract until everybody's happy. Now we know at least the money's not getting stolen. And you see what I'm saying in that regard? What we need to be protect for is the product being stolen in that attack vector, I think. You see what I'm saying? Because if the delivery is good,
Yep.
The person who got the product says, okay, I'm happy. And if they've got a decent reputation, then obviously they say they're happy, you're going to honor that. It's when they say they don't say they're happy. That's the edge case where you actually have to have customer service get involved, right? And that goes into the whole governance and treasury and all that stuff. It's the vector of whoever's carrying the product, them being attacked and their product being taken, because that person is going to be performing in the same function in one case, and they're going to have built a reputation. So with that, there's a good assumption that they're a good actor, right? But now you've got other individuals, if they're doing deliveries. So it's just a matter of safety, I think. You only want to, if you're going to do deliveries like that, you only want someone who's got a good reputation. But then you get areas where you've got a chicken and the egg problem, right? So it's just.
Well, yeah, and there's also like the physical safety angle where it's not even about just stealing a product, but like, if somebody gets targeted for, who they are, like if Charles Hoskinson bought something off this, and I don't know if he wants to give his personal address. I'm sure he has like a PO box and stuff like that, but like
Right.
there's a whole dimension to it that's like really difficult to deal with.
Absolutely, and the personal safety aspect is the biggest aspect. And you're right, a sophisticated person who did want to target somebody would build up reputation in the system, so that that whatever would happen smoothly. So, I think that we talked about different models of distribution. The most efficient, and what we chose for the NFT drop, was to enable our trusted ambassador group essentially to fulfill the orders. And so obviously that information was shared very discreetly and in a secure manner. Now, on a wide scale decentralized kind of system, I think maybe it makes sense to create a premium solution where there's a distribution warehouse or something that's operated by either Adosia or some other third party. To business opportunity, right? Where you're a trusted entity, printer operators are shipping all their product there, the user's paying a premium to ensure that I'm cool with getting my product from Bobo shipping. Bobo's cool, he's been shipping me stuff for however long. So I think that's probably the answer in that regard, and that's the
Yeah,
only
kind of
way.
like a decentralized PO box service.
Right. So you create an opportunity for people to run these and build brands for themselves. But then in that regard, I think you're still going to have, well, it's a business opportunity, so we'll see. You'll still have probably a few bad actors slip in.
Yeah, I mean now how it's the settlement doesn't happen until the end user, the customer, says, okay, I've received my product, and then once that has been confirmed on chain, then the funds are released to the printer operator. But still, I mean, any of that can be circumvented for someone who's sufficiently motivated.
Well, I was just saying, if you're going to create an opportunity for people to show up, that they could still be. It's not like with a stake pool operator on Cardano. It's you're gonna be pretty sophisticated. There's not a whole lot you can do as a single bad actor other than maybe run away with somebody's pledge. But here it's a little bit different. If you've got an operation and you know what I'm saying, and if you think about it, it's like, okay, let's say, and I'm just throwing the extremes. Let's say potentially not bad actor, but somebody with questionable integrity, shows up and starts providing this service, and they're making good money doing it, and then something happens, and that money, goes away. What's valuable? They've got a database, so that's a vector, and so I think that there would need to be some degree of, I don't know. I almost think that yeah. I mean, I think it should be definitely decentralized and maybe built into the guild process, but it's going to be a matter of reputation, and there's still going to be a lot of education. Don't use shipping centers that do this. It's just kind of like buying product on Alibaba, right? There's some do's and don'ts, but it goes back to Pi's point. In some cases, it could be a matter of physical harm, and that's what we want to mitigate.
Yeah, for sure. Guys, we've been rocking for an hour and a half. This is unusually long for an Adosia Twitter space, and I've been in meetings since 8:30 this morning nonstop, and have another one at 2. So I love you all very much. Pi, thanks a lot for joining us, brother. I appreciate your insight. Lord, thanks for the great questions and insight there too, man. Lots of stuff for us to think about. Take back to the drawing board, and more kinks to iron out, but that's okay. I mean, that's what we do these for.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for letting me, pip my launch as well a little bit too.
Yeah, everybody here who might listen to this later, who's here hanging out now, if you hadn't so far, go check out what Sundae launched yesterday on ITN, and give those guys some feedback. And same with Adosia here. We launched our ITN yesterday.
Yeah, to be clear, just to be clear, ours is not incentivized. It's just kind of a normal test net, and it's on the preview network, not the pre-prod network. A lot of people got confused about that.
Yep, sorry about that, guys. I've got ITN on the brain.
No worries.
But yeah, go give those guys a look and give them some feedback. And the Adosia ITN launched yesterday, so go check out the links up top, get in the Discord, and we'll see you guys next week.
Awesome. Thanks again.
Thanks, everybody.